Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games for the Game Pass collection, bringing you three unique perspectives for varying skill range. I am the one living his best life, Andrew. With me, the one who's living his worst life, Keith.
Hello.
And the one who gets lost in himself, Aaron.
Hey.
And this week, we played The Alters by 11-Bit Studios. The Alters is a base management game where you are playing an astronaut who got stranded on a planet. And in order to survive this planet, he needs to create alternate versions of himself from branching timelines in order to help him build the base up and escape the upcoming sunrise so he doesn't get cooked to death. But before we get into this, I just want to give a quick reminder to everyone. Please make sure you go to GamePassGrabBag.com and check out our wonderful new website where we have the list of all of our previous games and we have our thoughts and our scores on there. So if you ever listen to an episode in a couple of weeks down the road, you're like, hey, what did they think about this game? You can check out GamePassGrabBag.com and you can see our reviews to make it easier for you. And also make sure you join us in our live recordings every Wednesday around 8:30 EST on Facebook or Twitch or YouTube. Come see and join us in our live recordings. We always love interacting with people. But so let's get into this. The Alters. The Alters for me. I really like this game. I am really surprised. So this game I remember seeing in the showcase, and I'm like, that's a cool concept of a game. Since that showcase, I feel like there has been no talk about this game at all. Literally, it even dropped on Game Pass, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's here today. And it's just, okay. But anytime I kept seeing it, I'm like, this looks interesting, so it made me nervous. Is there issues with this game? Is it not very good? I gotta say, if this year wasn't so stacked, this actually probably would be a nomination for Game of the Year. But because it has a lot of things I love. I love base management games, and I love sci-fi, and kind of in dealing with philosophical questions, which is one of the main reasons why I like sci-fi, because you can kind of do fun things with this. And I really like this game's story. It's a little bit light on gameplay, but I really liked what this game is doing. This is a definite game for me. I really like The Alters.
So I kind of assumed you were going to like this. It's a bit survivally base management building, like you mentioned already, so I'm not going to reiterate all of that. And typically that would drive me away. I don't think I like it as much as Andrew does because I don't care for those elements, even though they're not super heavy. I will admit, or I will agree. That's kind of like my big takeaway, but I don't know, maybe this is just new year, new Keith or something, but it was kind of the story that was driving me. And as you were talking about the interest in like the dynamics of bringing these cloned, altered life beings of yourself and interacting with them, and like that's your relationship management. It was a cool, interesting twist, and I was kind of digging that aspect of it. So I don't think I would say a definite game, but I actually would I'd put this in a game for its genre.
Yeah, Andrew, you're already kicking this off kind of an interesting question, and that is, if this wasn't already a stacked year, would this go down as a potential game of the year? But I think it's actually kind of an interesting question because this is a unique game. It's a unique game, but it's got a lot of elements you've already seen before. We just haven't seen them wrapped up quite in a package like this before. We'll talk about it because it does share some kind of odd bedfellows there on other types of games, but it's a really good question. I like this game. I had a lot of fun with it. I have some levels of frustration, which are probably just like Keith said, kind of just the type of game. And it's just like these little nagging elements that just bother me. I totally get why Andrew would be into this. This seems like right up his alley.
This is my jam.
This is, but this is still a very fun game. And again, also agreeing with Keith, the story is just a huge kind of hook for this game. Where it kind of falls thin in some areas, the story does carry it a lot of ways. Although I do have a slight gripe with that, but we will get to that later as well. But yes, this is a game.
So kicking off, of course, this episode with The Alters, we got to talk about the story. And this is, like I said a little bit at the beginning here, this is generally, before we continue, we obviously do a very good job trying to avoid spoilers, but there are going to be some things we're talking about. If you really, I highly recommend you kind of go in this in a clean slate. With that also being said, I'm going to say this early. Do not look at the achievements. The achievements, very heavy in spoilers. But yeah, like I said, we'll try to avoid. But obviously, this game's a lot about choices, so we're gonna talk a little bit about some choices. But anyway, as I said with the story of the altars, you wake up in a escape pod that is crashing to on this planet. You don't know what's going on. You go around, you find your other crew members' escape pods, but unfortunately, all of them say deceased. Eventually, you come upon a mobile base that your team was supposed to manage, and you have to take care of it yourself. But unfortunately, this base is way too big, and there's no way you're able to handle it yourself. And you learn about this mysterious element that's the whole reason you got to this planet called Rapidium. And this element somehow can speed up growth in organic matter. So you kind of learn that you can duplicate yourself, but in alternate ways by different branching paths in your timeline. Did you go to college? Did you marry that girl? Did you save that person that was in distress when they were being robbed? These certain branching path lines will create different alternate versions of yourself. And you need to get them in order to help build up the base so you can escape before sunrise comes and destroys everything. But so as I said, one reason I really love fantasy games or sci-fi games, is because a lot of them can kind of play with these fun philosophical. I think I did like a mini stroke there. And so this idea of what if you created this other version of yourself? What if you did this? Are they a better version of yourself? What demons are they struggling with? And just that concept alone, I was like, this is really cool. I want to learn about this. Because your main character is just this generic builder guy. He grew up, he found a woman. They grew up together, but they got a divorce. And so now he's trying to prove to himself that he's not a failure. So he went on this space mission. But, you're creating these different versions. And I love this game's story. I don't know how you guys felt.
No, I mean, that was, well, I already said that was the part that I really liked about the altars in particular. Now, I don't know, maybe this me asking this question that I don't know the answer to because I'm not super far into the story. I don't want to call it a plot hole, but all of your altars, they're a simulated life of what your branching life would be, really. So to kind of fit what it is, like, do they kind of branch that into the story? Like, they're kind of being like, okay, we know we need a scientist, so you're like, the machine is intentionally simulating a life that makes you a scientist. Do you know what I mean?
No, this is dealing with extra dimensions because they even talk about it when you do with the anomalies.
Hold on. Because now you're getting really spoilery already out of the gate.
That's not really, because it's like,
because I guess my point in that question is, it's like, how convenient that you have these specific extra, or altered lives that happen to fit all of the crew of what you need, versus them going, hey, we know we need a scientist, so let's simulate your life from this point to make sure that you become a scientist. And like, they're manipulating that because the corporation, I feel like, is probably evil. They don't really, at least your character claims they are from the very beginning.
Keith, stop leading into questions that are obviously going to be spoilers.
Well, so pin those questions, Andrew, and
they're not plot holes. I will say there's an explanation as to what happened to the crew, and it does explain things that are going on. No, there's not a plot hole. They do explain things.
Carry on.
Because I one of the things that I actually like about the story, so I understand the element Andrew really likes. I like the overarching story. The overarching story is a little interesting because something's going on. It feels pretty obvious very early on in the game. There is something else going on that doesn't feel quite right. It feels a little nefarious. And that part of it, I really enjoyed. I do like that this kind of took me a while to kind of figure this out too. They very specifically never call your altars clones because they're not. Although I think, when you're looking at this game, that's how you want to interpret it. It actually does a very good job of explaining that these are not clones. Yes, you share a face. Yes, you share some history, but you are not clones. There are elements to them that are different, which I think is kind of interesting. So my small gripe on the story, I like the story. I'm enjoying it. It's very good. There's a little bit too much of it, though. Like, you sometimes are on a call just to walk away to get another call like 3 minutes later. And you're like, okay, we could have just we could have just turned this into one thing. You didn't have to turn it into two things. I felt like I was going to the communication center a lot,
Yeah.
which was fine again because it's a good story. But it's like, okay, is there any way we can kind of make us a little more efficient? And even some of the dialogue that you're having with some of your alters, it was to the point where I was like, gosh, do I even want more of these? Because like these guys were all kind of annoying. And they all are just whining. Like everyone's whining. They just whine. All of them.
Red.
All the time. And so there is a little bit of a bit much when it comes to the story because there's just a lot of it going on. It's good. It's interesting. But I think they probably needed to pace this out a little bit better, give it a little bit more room to breathe before it leads you into the next beat. But again, it's a small knock on it, but I just think it was sometimes overload.
Well, this is a bit of overlap into gameplay, but still kind of in the realm of story. And to your point with pacing, Aaron, is I haven't expanded beyond having 2 additional altars right now. I still, it's just me and my 2 altars. And I felt like I got the second one really quick right after the first one. I was like, I'm just trying to figure out this mechanic of how to navigate this first one. And again, just trying to stop him from complaining all the time. And in the midst of that, they're like, you know what you should do? Throw another one in there because that'll make him super at ease and make this less annoying. And I was like, great, okay. And then they're getting radiation burns, and now I'm annoyed with you guys, and I'm with Aaron. And like, I just let me kind of ease into this a little bit more. I think
because
like.
Do any of them just like each other, or are they even just like, yeah, we're good friends?
Yeah.
We love each other. I felt like they were just constantly at war. I was constantly dealing with these guys fighting about something. And it was just like, oh, okay. Like, I get it. I know that's a little bit more gameplay and that's less kind of story. But yeah.
What altars did you guys pick?
I have a scientist.
Yeah.
I have a miner.
So we picked the same, at least.
And I have a technician.
Yeah, the technician, they force you.
Yeah,
that's like.
And the scientist, they kind of force you. So the third one is kind of.
Yeah, so I have. So yeah,
I picked the botanist. I didn't do the miner till later.
I'm just about to do a botanist because I have this thing in garden, and I was like, I might as well just have a botanist. But part of me, I was like, oh, do I want another one of these guys? But I realized because the other thing I was looking at is in the dormitory, there's 4 beds, so I have an open bed. But I'm like, man, if I have to go build another dormitory, like
you can get up to 6. And I'm in the third act. And
I don't want to. I don't.
I mean,
that's a lot of people.
I guess if you want, kind of pro tips of the easier ones to handle are the refiner. He's very easy. He's very hippie. Everything's chill, bro. And then you got the botanist. The botanist is just very much in love with your wife, and just isn't our wife great? She's great. Everything's great. It's just like, all right.
I found the scientist to be fairly easygoing.
Yes,
mostly because I could just read that everything. I was like, what's the thing that's going to boost his ego in the response?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, so he was easy though in that regards. It's like I was like,
but he fights with everybody.
That is true because he was like,
and you can't prevent fights.
Yeah, they had a fight over food and whether we should have good food or not. And I was like, no, screw you, scientists. I'm the one making the food. You're not. I'm going to make the fancy food and you're going to eat it or you're not. I don't care. So yeah, I only have 3 and it's those 3. The technician, the miner, and the scientist.
They just seem like the most obvious to go for because I don't remember forcing you to have to do the scientist. I felt like that was a smart thing to do there.
Well, because you
need to get the technology.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, I was going to say there's that. And
I think I got him before I even needed it.
You need to do the if
you
want
make
to
the
expand,
bridge.
Yeah, and if you want to expand your ship, you need him too because you need to be able to research it. So that's what I was doing because I was like, I can't stand the building of this. Like overall, I don't hate it. I just that's getting at it.
I like even Alex in our chat saying the miner is ruining his life. The miner is one of the more difficult ones to handle.
Is he the one that lost his hand?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, he's annoying.
Yeah, because then he wants to pop pain pills and it's just like, okay, man.
He actually hasn't been an issue for me. It's definitely been the technician and the scientist. Like I feel like I'm always dealing with them, but the miner's been pretty decent to me.
The technician chilled out pretty quickly because I think I immediately had like the item that boosted his happiness a bunch. So he pretty quickly got on board. And he's he's a little temperamental here and there. I think he was the one who got in the fight with the scientist. But even he was just like, I don't know, man. If I could just have like a lukewarm beer, I'll be happy. That's cool. You do that. But yeah, the miner, like, and I mean, you want to talk like a philosophical question, as Andrew would say.
Philosophical. There, we did it this time.
You know, people and they talk about it as the whole concept of phantom pain. So when someone loses a limb, they talk about how you can feel, and it's like phantom pain. Now this guy gained a hand back, and it's like he's feeling this weird pain because he's got your body but his brain, and he's not used to that. So that's again,
that's very deep.
Well, I'm just it's maybe not philosophical, but it's interesting in the whole concept of how this game is going.
So I mean, what always like, the main philosophical question is basically of what makes a person, because it is kind of so as you're saying, Aaron, they're not clones, they are alters. They're people, they're you from a different timeline, but it is very much because it's a thing they constantly keep asking of what happens after. And it's a good question. Like, this isn't their universe. Like, what would you guys do in this situation? Like, do you think you would try to save them?
Their universe? Like, did they just get abducted by you, basically?
The only thing they remember. So every time you get an alter, they all end the same place. Every single one of them signed up for the space mission, and they all went to cryosleep. So that's the last thing they remember is going into cryosleep. And now they're waking up here.
They had different roles.
Yeah.
When they went in.
So Ally Corp is collecting these across the multiverse, and then they're harvesting them to then use in their research.
That's
he's not saying definitively. Yeah,
that's speculation.
I'm in chapter 1, or I'm in act 1, so I'm not spoiling anything. This is
speculation.
Which this is, I will say one thing that kind of annoys me with sci-fi. If it's a sci-fi movie and there is a corporation, they're evil. Like, I'm not saying it in this game, but that is like something every sci-fi movie does. Of hey, there's a corporation. It's like, well, I'm sure they're body harvesting or something really.
We're auto-tuned to it now.
I know
we're auto-tuned to it now. So
yes,
and like I said, when you start this game, it's very quick that things start to fire off in your brain.
Yeah,
I know who the bad guy is here because you're so set to default on that. So I'm totally with you. You kind of are like, all right, I know these are the bad guys, even though they haven't done anything overtly evil.
Yeah,
something's going on.
So I'm gonna say that's at least my gameplay choice. I am trying to be the benefit of a doubt, and this corporation has my best interest in mind. I'm gonna try to trust them. So I'm not gonna say much, but that was at least what going into this game. Because I felt the same way, Aaron, where I'm like, I am tuned to being like corporation, sci-fi, gotta be evil. Like, is there? I mean, Aaron, you're a movie buff. Can you think of a single sci-fi movie where the corporation was actually good, or like morally okay?
No.
Yeah,
I legit cannot. I'm sure there is one.
I
can't think of it.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like,
Avatar.
What? Where they're trying to get unobtainium.
Yeah, the blue guys were the bad guys. Like the corporation was just trying to do their job, and the blue guys were like trying to kill them. So there you go.
Which that kind of reminds me. I love Avatar's unobtainium. And this one, it's just like it's rapidium. It thinks it rapidly speeds up growth. And it's just like sometimes people really suck at naming sci-fi stuff.
Like, do you almost wonder though, like almost like horror, like even like outside of some really like heady horror movies, like a Get Out or something like that, there's a level of campiness that like needs to be in a horror movie to be a horror movie. And maybe Aaron, you can speak to this better, the movie guy here, but like are sci-fi movies kind of doing that same thing? Like it's a little bit tongue in cheek. Like, yeah, we know it's obvious that we're making this evil corporation name, but like we're supposed to do that a little bit. And it's just kind of like a joke.
Yeah, but usually somebody comes along and flips the script on it a little bit and does something completely different. But again, like we just mentioned, I can't think of that really happening. If there is a big corporation and it is sci-fi, that's your bad guy.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much always the case. So horror's done a good job recent, especially over the last few years, of really doing some out of the box thinking. I don't know if, and that's not to say that there's bad sci-fi. There's plenty of good sci-fi, but that thing is kind of an easy plot point.
You can't even Google this. I Googled sci-fi movie with a corporation that it wasn't evil, and I get Reddit, which sci-fi corporation is the most evil. Client,
yeah, I was going to say, did your Google come back with
15
error?
Evil corporations.
No answers found.
The top most villainous corporations. There isn't one.
No.
But I will say, I mean, I'm literally 30 minutes away from beating this game. This is going to be my first complaint. I'm playing on a Series S, and for whatever reason, in the third act, anytime I go outside, it was fine at first, but anytime I go outside now, my game crashes, and I have to reboot it, load back in, and then I can maybe go outside like twice, and then it'll crash again. So it's just taking me extra long, but I'm literally like, hit A to finish the game, like pretty much kind of there, but I had to go through a whole bunch of dialogue, and it just crashed on me, and I'm like, I can't do this again. But also another pro tip you reminded me, I forgot to say. It took me a very long time to realize. So there is a lot of dialogue, but you can hit X to speed it up a little.
Yes.
Anytime I saw it, it said skip. And I thought it meant skip the entire dialogue. So I'm like, I'm not going to hit that button. I don't want to skip that.
That's why it's good you have me around, because I tried that real early on.
Keith was willing to risk it to figure it out.
There might be something I can get past here.
That's the other thing that's killer is obviously I use the X button a lot. Because you honestly have to, or you're going to spend literally half of the gameplay just sitting in really oddly paced dialogue.
Yeah.
When you're on those audio calls, there's so many gaps where they kind of just go silent before like saying their next line. And it's like, who paced this like that? Like this, I guess they're trying to add some type of awkwardness and uncomfortableness there, but it just slows everything way down. You're like, keep the conversation moving. It's got to move.
There was one of them I took a clip of because it was so uncomfortable. Like I think you're talking to Maxwell, or like the first guy,
the boss.
Lucas.
No, that's Lucas.
Lucas, yeah, you're talking to Lucas, and he makes some comment about how it's not that bright or something, and you kind of laugh, and then there's like a 2-second pause. And he's like, "That's not funny." And your guy just goes, okay, and that's the end of it.
Cool.
I feel very awkward now. I don't know what to do. But yeah, the dialogue is very awkward at points. And to your point too, Aaron, like you're often talking to yourself, so it's just like it's easy to know who you're talking to, and who's speaking at the given moment, because I think only the other character has dialogue typically. But it's I don't know. It's kind of boring in that way, but I want to like the story, and I do. It's just sometimes the dialogue's weird.
It is. It's not perfect. It's a little uneven, but overall, it's a positive, not a negative.
But speaking of the dialogue, though, and getting into the gameplay, a lot of the gameplay, like I said, this game is a little bit light on gameplay. One of the main core components is talking to your alters. And of course, understanding their personality. So as we're kind of alluding, the scientist is a very ego-driven. He's very much work ethic. Got to get things done no matter what. We'll skip the small stuff. And as you're engaging with your alters, you have actual dialogue choices, which is a nice change of pace. As we said last week with Metaphor Refantasia of fake choices, this game has real choices and real consequences. As you're talking to your alters, it's doing these little either red bubbles or green bubbles. Was this something your alter liked, or is this something they didn't like? Did they gain more of a rebellious trait, or did they gain more gloominess, or did they gain joy? So you really got to figure out the alter you're talking to and how they think and what they may want. So as we say, or like the other one, the technician is kind of a jerk, but he also likes to take it as much as he gives. So I've kind of learned that you can kind of insult him and he kind of finds it funny and like, yeah, man, it's a good joke. So you got to kind of learn the nuances of how these people act. Because when you create an alter, it shows their entire branching pathline of like what choices they did. Did you guys read those?
Yes.
Okay. Well, did you, Keith?
read them wholly, but I skimmed through them to like get an
there is a
idea
lot.
of what they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I wasn't like reading every single line of it. No, but I was skimming through to get an idea of it.
There is a lot. I actually enjoyed the stories. So for me, I'm like, actually, I didn't hate reading them, but it was helpful because you can kind of see this person's thought process when you're talking to people. So that's a little bit of a tip for me. But I do agree the dialogue choices it is a lot. Oh, one thing that's kind of cool. I'm assuming your guys' games never crashed.
No.
Which did.
I'm playing on PC.
Well, Alex in the chat made a good point that you can't manually save. It's all auto save.
Yep.
And apparently it's keeping all the files. So I think that explains why I'm in third act and it's now crashing a lot. I already saw they did say they were going to patch that and they were going to actually bring in manual saves. But one thing was kind of nice when it crashed, it actually showed me my dialogue choices. So I thought I was like, oh, that's kind of nice.
So it's funny that you mentioned that. So again, I've been playing this on PC, which has been running great on PC. I haven't had any issues there. Every time you fall asleep, it saves from that point. I didn't realize that, but then it gave me a pop-up when I went and reloaded back in that was like, hey, you've already made decisions here. It reset me though, but we'll show you what decisions you made before. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll test this out. I'll go and try different branches here. It didn't change much. So I was kind of like, all right, now I kind of wonder, like, are these actual choices or are these a lot of artificial choices? And it might have been just the conversations that were happening had to have a certain conclusion to them. So it didn't matter. That could be the case. But I was kind of surprised that it didn't seem like it made much of a difference. I kind of ended up in pretty much the same place.
Well, I think a good chunk of, or the tutorial is still like an hour long. So there's points where too, it feels like you've played for a while, but then all of a sudden you're still in the tutorial. And like, it isn't until I think you're after your first altar that it like comes up with the screen. But I did have it crash on me once. It doesn't do well with quick resume if you're playing on Xbox. I found that out the hard way because I just like went over to another game and I came back and everything was exploding. It was like, you have died. What? Again, I was able to just reload to the day that I had fallen asleep on and saved at, but like it just carried on without pausing the game. But with that, that's where I didn't have a full-on crash, but it crapped out all of my audio. So like when I loaded back in to reloaded my save, the audio was all wonky. Like music would cut in and out. I had some sound effects, was about all, and so I quit and reloaded the game and it was fine.
But the other main component of the gameplay is, of course, base management. So whenever you're in a giant mobile wheel that literally is just, it's always 2D whenever you're in the base. And so it's kind of easy to build the base and move modules around. You need to make sure you have a bedroom, kitchen, workshop, like a lot of stuff. Now you're researching things, getting different modules, growing, getting more altars. But you, as the main character and the builder, you go out exploring the surrounding area because, of course, there's always something why your base can't move, and you got to find minerals so you can mine them, get more resources, explore for, crash supplies that you can maybe give to your altar, upgrade your base, avoid anomalies that are trying out to get you. So there's no real actual combat. It's the most you're doing is shining a light and trying to get rid of things that are blocking your path. They of course get a little harder, but it's nothing too difficult. But you're of course all about time management. It's a 24-hour cycle. Too late in the night, radiation starts seeping in and you'll slowly start to get sick and die. So you got to make sure you're not too tired and managing everything. I love base management games. Okay, this game reminded me very much. I don't know if you guys ever played it. The style of game became super popular. But Fallout Shelter was the one I feel like really kind of broke the mold and like really was like the main component of that genre. But yeah, it's that same idea. If you've played Fallout Shelter, I mean, there's obviously a ton of these shelter kind of games. It's just like that, but obviously way more in depth. And like, so that's why for me, I'm like, this is awesome. Because like, it's those simple, almost mobile phone-ish game, Aaron. Because I mean, Fallout Shelter is, but I love this game's main component of just exploring. I loved just exploring the area.
Yeah, this is why I kind of want to push back on you a little bit when you say it's light on gameplay. I don't think it's necessarily light on gameplay. It's almost like 3 different gameplay loops wrapped into one. So there's a base management one. You could say Fallout Shelter. You can almost say that's like an element of The Sims. The way that your guys are just kind of walking around doing their own things and you're kind of managing them kind of feels like a Sims type thing. And then kind of the survival stuff when you're outside of your base doing stuff. There's really, it doesn't feel like it's light on gameplay. There was always something you were having to do. There was something you were supposed to go focus on. So I don't know if I would necessarily call it that, but design wise, one of my favorite things about this game is the base itself. I think the base itself is actually a really strikingly cool looking image.
Yeah.
It's a giant wheel and pods in the middle of the base. And I love that view. I love walking up to it and seeing it just in this desolate land, and you just have this giant wheelbase, and it's just cool looking.
It is.
And the managing of it again looks really cool, and it's a really, really good idea. Did I find myself frustrated with it because I was having to do a lot of weird adjusting of things, and then I would hate it because I'm used to something being in one location and I keep having to remind myself it's not there anymore. It's on a totally different floor. Yeah. But it's again, that's just a preference thing. It's not a bad design. I actually think it's a really cool looking base.
I mean, it reminds me of, you remember old Diablo 2 bag management? It's like that, but it's like your whole game. That's what you're focused on, is trying to figure out how to fit it in. And instead of being a rectangle, it's a circle. And so there's just weird corners that don't quite make sense. So there's that. And I did enjoy that aspect of it. I think what I didn't hate about the survival, and maybe it gets a little bit crazier or kind of more expanded as you go into the game, but from where I played it, I liked the simplicity of just like, hey, you go out, you find a couple nodes around the map, you build an outpost there, and the pylons to get them back. And like, that's at least kind of like your resource gathering loop. It didn't feel like I was having to build, like, one of Andrew's favorite roasts, like, you only built one of the forges and I can literally only build one outpost there. So I'm not going to get yelled at for not building enough outposts. I just build them where I can. It gives me spots that I'm allowed to do things, and it's kind of hand-holdy.
Was that a Tectonica roast?
No, it was a My Time at Porsche. That was like years one of us' podcast.
To this day, it stands.
Actually, no. During Tectonica, I think he literally only built one.
All right.
I had like 2 or 3 in Tectonica, so I've grown. I just haven't evolved.
When you just imitated Andrew's range, I was like, this had to be Tectonica. That just seems like something that he would be.
No, because even Liz made fun of Keith, where she was like, "You built one forge."
But you know what? Liz likes these games. That's where we differ. She has her niche.
But I originally said this game's kind of light on gameplay because what you guys have done, that's the entire game. Like, there's nothing else added. There's some new anomalies, but it doesn't really mix up the gameplay that much.
Yeah, but you're adding in new altars. You are moving to new locations because your tire does drive. So that is cool. So there are things, and the story is progressing you to other things.
Absolutely.
So sure, that is the loop, but all games have a core loop to them. So the core loop is split into 3 areas. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily describe it as shallow. I get what you're saying, Andrew, but I think that exists in all video games where there's just a core loop that just has slight progressions to it. It's the same thing when you're playing something like a Doom. There's slight progressions to it, but it's ultimately the same thing. I think you get that here too.
I'm not fully knocking it. Because the game's only 16 hours long. So yeah,
fair. So I think what it is, though, is it's the same product of like what you would say maybe with like a Hades. Like, it's a roguelike game, and then there's this whole story built on top of it that's interesting. And I'm not calling this a roguelike. I know, Andrew, I see you laughing at me.
No, I'm looking up something else I want to mention.
But it does actually do a good job with that story, but it doesn't really need to be there. The core element of Hades is that piece of the gameplay. It's the dungeon crawling. It's that gameplay loop. I think with the altars, the main gameplay loop is the altars. It's the focus on getting more altars. So the gameplay changing, like Aaron was saying, is getting more of these altars in your base and just interacting with more. that's really what changes the most. Everything else is just, yep, new area, find your obstacles, get through it. And it's a way to add a gameplay mechanic on top without just being like, here's 12 hours of talking to altars. You know what I mean? Like, it's a way to shake it up, and they do a decent enough job that it's fun and it makes for a good gameplay overall. But the core of it's the altars.
Yeah.
No, I was laughing because I wanted to confirm this, but Alex in our chat, if you saw, I said the signature edition of this game comes with the pierogi press,
like a real life one.
It's true.
That's pretty.
I mean,
awesome.
that is pretty great.
Let me,
I would like that.
share it. Yeah, because I mean, it's small. It's not like one of those.
Can you make pierogies with it?
I mean, you can.
I would
say so. It's kind of like a small plastic thing.
Okay.
But I mean, of course, it comes with other stuff: pins, a keychain with Molly the Lamb, bunch of
but
stickers.
What you want is the pierogi press. That's the.
So that's pretty cool. I'm trying to, but they don't have a price on it. Oh, here it is. Oh, signature edition. For the Xbox, it's $70. For PC, it's $60. Why is the signature edition cheaper for PC?
Probably no actual physical edition for the PC.
Maybe
that's kind of lame. But anyway, but I wanted to ask. So, I wanted you to mention, Aaron, because you said we're saying it before the episode.
Yeah.
So you were saying you were getting hung up on this game. What were your issues?
So it does come back to gameplay. So again, for the most part, those are the 3 areas of the game, and I generally like them. They all kind of work on their own. They're all pretty well done. But when it comes to resource management, this was a bit of a disaster for me. And there are certain missions where you need a certain amount of materials to do a thing. To get those materials wasn't all that difficult, but what happens is you run out of storage. I just kept building new storage, but now I'm running out of other places to put other items. Like you said, got a giant wheel. You got limited spaces you're trying to plug some things into, and I was just kept grabbing storage. So I realized pretty early on what my problem was, and this is the stuff that drives me crazy about Andrew. Andrew will just fly through this. He just apparently knows what he's doing and goes through it. I start to go through a loop of trying to figure out, because to me, I just want to gather resources. That's what I want. I'm going to get all the resources so I can build whatever the heck I want. Well, that's a bad idea. You actually don't want to do that in this game. You actually want to be really strategic on what materials you're actually going for a purpose. I started building a bunch of stuff. I was like, I'll just build 5 outposts because I can. I've got the resources for it. I'll just build 5 outposts. That way I have them. When I need them, cool, I have them. That's a bad idea. Each outpost you're building is taking up your storage. So I kept running into these moments of crap, what do I do? I'm maxed out. I can't build a new storage pod. Now what do I do? Because I need to build this thing.
Wait, were you storing outposts?
No, but at first that's what I was thinking, but they keep collecting, and all of a sudden, the technician will chime in and be like, "Hey, boss,
yeah. Once you place this, when you place the outpost, it doesn't take up space."
No. That's what I'm saying. I had all these resources. I was like, I'll just build. I will build the 5 outposts. I didn't place them down yet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I would just have them in my storage.
That takes up a lot of space.
No, I know. So, but that's where
even if you put them out, then all of a sudden you just start collecting resources. Then you're just overloaded with.
Then you're overloading again. So this is where I kind of had to rewire my brain. Where it sounds like Andrew did this pretty quickly. Where Andrew did this pretty quickly. This is not a blueprints issue. I know we're getting this in the chat right now. This is not a blueprints issue. I know what I'm doing here. I was recognizing it later on that my default of get a ton of resources, build whatever, have a bunch of stuff in your research, you're ready to go. You've got everything that you need. I don't have to keep going back for something. I don't have to build another outpost because I just are mining outposts because I have 5 of them. I realized what I was doing was wrong. And I had to go back and basically destroy everything. I had to go destroy a bunch of my stuff and just only what I need for the next object, whether it's getting food for everybody or whether it's building something that's the next thing I got to build to move on. I realized that it did take me a while to figure out what the heck is all in my storage and what do I need to do here? Because obviously like I was doing things like I was doing mining outposts, and I remember there was like a material I didn't need for anything, but I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna collect it.
Rapidium. Yeah, don't collect Rapidium until later.
It wasn't even that. It was what was the radioactive material?
Oh, it's enriched
enriched-
minerals or
Yeah,
enriched,
so I didn't need it for anything, but I was like,
You need
oh,
the
I got it.
refiner. Yeah, it's
They do.
pointless unless you have the refiner.
So
I have the refinery, I think, but not the
I'm
refinery.
loading up on that junk, and I'm real. Then I run into this issue. I'm like, I'm out of space, and I'm not really connecting these things. Where I'm like, well, I'm going to need it eventually. Like I'm going to need that material eventually, so I'll just have it now. Again, that's where my brain operates when I do these things. Is just stack up on your resources so you never have to worry about it again. And that's not how this works at all. And
Yeah.
right? Am I wrong? Is that the
No.
pro tip?
Yeah, you've done some things, I guess I would say. So of course, you can
What's that
delete
mean?
things. You can delete things. What
Yes.
you're saying, right?
Oh, I deleted a bunch of minerals,
Does it
that
give
I
you
realized I
100%
didn't need.
back though?
No.
and then I got rid of all the extras of everything that I had. Like I said, I built a bunch of outposts. I built a bunch of pylons because I was like, I'll need them eventually, obviously. So I'll just build them now. And
Yeah.
that's not a good idea.
So the game fixed that problem, which is a really nice feature. So they have this thing called Uphold, where you can set a set number of how many of these things you will have. So case in point, as Aaron's saying, like outposts, I did basically all the outposts as Uphold of 1.
Yep.
Yes, some days I have really good exploration and I can find a lot of these places and I wish I had more outposts. But so what Uphold does is if you do not have that number of things, it'll automatically be in production. So that's why you don't want to stack a whole bunch of outposts. You just want to say Uphold of 1 or 2 and just that's in your inventory. So if you ever need them, there you go. You have them. So like that's what I was able to do. Put someone on the workstation to keep making those things. Same with food. Like anything takes space. And as I said, Rapidium early on, you don't use a whole lot. You use it to make altars, but you only need like 20. So it's not something you need to focus a lot on. And because that was my issue. I had like 200 Rapidium and I'm like, I'm not spending this stuff. So I had to delete a whole bunch of it.
So you ran into the same issues I had.
But
Should I just delete a pylon then?
you can.
and
But
so-
if a pylon's
so-
out, it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying then it will stop mining Rapidium, right?
No, just
Or is it only-
don't send anybody to go mine it. Like
Yeah.
okay.
somebody
Never
has to
mind.
work
Yeah,
the
so
station. Just don't assign them to that station and
Oh,
don't
yeah,
go
I
to the
thought it-
station and mine it.
I thought it just went faster when someone was working it. Okay. I didn't realize that. I will say though, I had the same issue as Alex in our chat where the magnetic storm caught me off guard because I went to go mine something. I was like, I'm going to stock up on this. And then all of a sudden everything's on fire and I
Yeah.
didn't have any organic materials and I couldn't because everything was broken and I couldn't build rad filters and I just had to watch my whole entire base burn. No, actually,
Yeah,
I restarted.
I
Just
didn't
immediately
die.
started
I didn't
organic.
die at any point in my playthrough. Like, in fact, I describe this as not like it's not difficult. Like I think you can avoid dying pretty easily.
Yeah.
The magnetic storm does catch you off guard though, because that does just happen.
Yeah.
You
the
don't
first
know
one.
that it's you don't know that exists in the game, and it just happens. Again, me being over prepared, I actually had plenty of filters. So
I did not. That was
So
my issue.
I was totally golden in that sense. So my over preparedness actually worked for my advantage there. But outside of that, yeah, I like the anomalies. Like I just tested it when I ran into my first anomaly. I was like, well, I'm gonna run through this thing to see what it does. And it hurts you a little bit, but not even that bad. And I was like, oh, okay.
You can also pretty well run around them.
Oh yeah,
was-
that's
I was-
what you
I was just juking them.
that's what you could do. But I wanted to run through it just to see what it did. And it hurt, but it
Yeah, it just gives you
was-
radiation.
So, question then: did you play? Because I didn't really like how this game did it. So it has an economy setting, which there's two of them: standard and harder. There's no easy, just standard. So, and then there's the actual difficulty for like the adventure, quote unquote, side. Like I did easy for that because I was like, I don't know, I didn't see any achievements for it, and I've just decided I'm at a point in my life, especially when it comes to a genre of games I'm just not all that good with. I'm just gonna take the easy mode.
No shame, Keith.
Yeah.
That's
Whatever,
what I'm
whatever
saying.
makes you
I'm
enjoy
just-
the game.
I've just decided that I'm shamelessly going to do that now.
I always just stick to the normal
I do
setting.
know.
That's
Typically, I
kind of
do.
my
But
and-
like I said, this game, I just like I know it's gonna like I'm just gonna struggle. So I'm just going to try and make this easier for myself.
Yeah.
If there's
Yeah.
an achievement, I'll bump up the difficulty because I do generally like playing like on a little bit harder difficulties of stuff. See, originally when you were complaining about stuff, Aaron, I thought you were going to complain about. So usually when you're putting in modules, eventually your ship gets too heavy and it says, "Oh, you don't have enough fuel to move this ship. It's too heavy." I thought that was your problem. And like that's what I learned quickly of. Well, my ship is stationary. I'm just going to build a crap load of storage areas. And once I have to move, I'll just delete them, delete all the stuff I don't need, and just so I can keep moving.
That's that. So it has not warned me that I'm overburdened yet. It hasn't done that yet.
So then you haven't built enough storage areas then.
Well, here's a little bit of the issue though. Now I'm running into like a routing issue. So like you build that arc, but I had to like attach it to this room.
Yeah, that arc gets annoying.
Yeah, because it takes up a lot of space. And so now I kind of have to build a corridor to basically put more storage units in. So right now it's much more of like just I have to actually map this thing out, right? I don't hate doing that. It can be a little bit fun to actually kind of build that way. It's very easy to pop things in and out. The only thing that's annoying about it is if I'm used to something being in one location and now it's not there anymore because I moved it to the totally opposite side. Because you get used to flying through your base.
Yeah.
Which is fun when you're kind of going up and down the elevator real quick to get to your next spot. And
I do like they put signs on the elevator so you know what's there. That's actually a nice feature.
That is nice. So every time you get to a floor, you literally have a sign sitting on that floor saying, "Hey, to the right, you've got these things. To the left, you've got these things." That is a nice feature. Totally like that as well. But yeah, to me, again, minor. I know I'm talking about the resource stuff. I just had to retool my brain where I always want to hoard as much resources as I possibly can, build all the things that I want to build. And most games, I feel like when I'm doing these types of games, the things I'm building aren't necessarily counting against my burden. Like my resources will, but not necessarily the things. So that's how I was reading it in my brain. I'll just create a ton of this stuff. But yeah, again, retooled my brain. I was fine.
My brain was kind of backwards, at least on that in regard. Like I expected it to burden me with like carrying the mining outposts and the stuff, but I figured that when my resources are getting mined directly back to it, that it like my personal wasn't shared with the ship. I thought I had a separate.
Yes,
that's what I was expecting. It's like separate storage between myself and the ship.
That part was a little bit confusing too. Like when you go and actually look at your storage, everything is actually stored on your ship. Nothing is stored on your person.
Yep.
And that took me a long time to figure that out too. Because Keith, same thing. Where I'm thinking I'm carrying stuff, ship is carrying other, and I'm like, well, how do I pass these things off? It is all shared into one big thing. Again, just remap your brain a little bit, and it's not that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, yeah, as we said, gameplay I found it actually it's very simple. I only fainted because I didn't even die. I got in the third act, I got completely lost, and I just fainted. So there really wasn't much of a consequence.
What happens?
It literally, the screen blacks and it says you fainted from radiation, but an altar saved you. So I got next day still had radiation sickness, and so did one of my random altars. But I was like, okay, I'll just keep you indoors for the day. Like, I will say that's one thing I like, managing the altars, like assigning them stations, super easy. I thought for sure they were going to be like, oh, I don't like that job, I'm not going to do that. But no, any altar will do anything. So it's like, oh, well, that thing makes things a way easier.
Are they better at it? Like if
yes.
you put the botanist in the
he'll grow things faster in the greenhouse. The miner will get minerals faster if he works in a mining outpost.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously there's perks to it, but it's not, because that was what I was afraid of, where I'm like, oh, is the botanist never going to touch a mining drill? No, they don't care. They'll do whatever. And I really did like that a lot. Did you guys ever watch the videos, the movies you were finding?
No, I meant to, because I thought there was a purpose to them, or I figured.
Yeah.
Where do you?
Well, just it gives joy to everyone, but the movies themselves are actually pretty funny. There was one movie that actually had me cracking up. It was the concept of like Freaky Friday when people switch bodies.
Yeah.
So the whole purpose of the movie was basically the two guys comparing notes about what happened when they switched bodies. It was actually pretty funny of like them being like, dude, your blue is my brown.
Is that the
What's
one
up
where
with
it's
that?
like-
Why do you taste things so differently?
There was
It
one
was-
where the description was like something about two guys trying to have a conversation that they can't finish or something.
No, they constantly keep finishing each other's sentences.
That one
That
I
was
just
kinda
assumed was
funny.
like I assumed it was like Abbott and Costello, like the who's on first type of things. is what
No, it was
guessing
just
based
them
on the description.
constantly.
Where do you watch them?
You have to get the social room, and then there's a TV in there.
Okay. I don't have
But-
space for a social room. Dang it.
But yeah, I actually highly recommend the movies. They're actually pretty funny. There was one that, of course, was supposed to be like Among Us or like The Thing, where they're like testing blood, and the guy's just like, "Ew, why would you have to cut our hands? That's gross. Ew." It's actually really funny. But anyway, as far as the graphics, though, this game was really beautiful. I love this game's graphics because this is the thing I was like afraid of too. Of hey, you're just creating alternate versions of yourself. Is everyone just going to look the same? And they actually did a very good job, like making people look strikingly different. I will say, I had a little gripe. I wish they kind of went comical. I really wish they created an alter that was like really stupid, like someone who's like a massive weeb, or like someone into really My Little Pony, and like all he talks about is My Little Pony. He's completely useless, but that's all he does. But now, unfortunately, they don't do anything fun like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to look this up. So usually, Andrew, this is on you. This is your bad. Usually, you start by saying who created this game, and
Yeah, you got derailed with
What-
with the failed start, and
I said
Yeah.
11-bit studios.
I don't know if you did.
what did they create before this, Andrew?
Oh,
Um,
well, I didn't say that, but I'm pretty sure they did This War of Mine.
Yep. So, because
that was a
talking about
similar play
graphics,
style, isn't it? Like
I was
That's another management game. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty. That's 2D.
Yep.
Which again, not a bad looking game. Pretty good looking game. But I don't know why I'm always like surprised by smaller studios that make a relatively small game that had a niche. It had people that liked it, but then their next one really ups the ante. Because I think graphically, this game, I agree with you. I think this game looks pretty good. And there are some elements of it, like even just walking around the base, where I'm like, there's a lot of detail in here. Like this looks really, really nice. So I'd agree with you. I think graphically, I think this game felt really sci-fi.
like those just like the random like little like lived in messes around the dormitory or even the kitchen
Yeah.
area, the fans, little elements like that, just interesting details. And then it shifts so dramatically going from this 2D base out into the 3D world where is it the greatest graphics I've ever seen? No. And I actually ended up going over to performance from graphics.
It's pretty dark.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. Like it's sharp and it's nice. It's a lot of the same, but my favorite part, and Aaron, you had said this earlier, is it's the ship. It's whenever you're just running around and you turn and you're like, it's time to go back to the ship, and you just turn and you're like, there it is.
Yeah.
It's not a huge gripe, but we bring it up a lot. I would like a mini map. I think it would be nice, but there's no HUD overall in it. There's a very easy to read and accessible map just by hitting the back button. It's not a big deal. But I just love being able to just be like, where's the ship? And you can just see it off in the distance, and it just creates such a cool like picture in the background.
Yeah. Although I will say one thing, as much as like the land itself is just kind of rocky and stuff like that, again, looks good. When you're in an area with Rapidium, though, that's a cool.
Yeah,
I think that's a cool feature where it kind of just distorts the view on it. So it's really shiny and bright, but it's really distorted. So I think anytime you're near Rapidium, that always looked really cool. I like that a lot.
Well, you never got in the third act. There's another anomaly that fragments your screen, so you kind of have different visions of like views of yourself.
Oh, that's
that's
fun.
kind of cool.
Yeah, so in there, it doesn't hurt you, but it's obviously like hard to aim and interact with things, and you got to get the cores of it. But no, I guess I didn't mention the studios of the games they created. I forgot they created some of my favorite games. These are the people behind Frostpunk. That's one of my all-time favorite games. But Moonlighter, just recently got Donnie, one of our listeners and our friend who helped us build the website. He just started playing Moonlighter. Such a underrated game. Got to check out Moonlighter if you
Is
haven't.
it still on Game Pass?
It is. And Moonlighter 2 is coming out this summer.
I don't think I ever finished that. I should go back. Like I did. Anyways, that's a whole different conversation.
The ending of it was really good.
I think I got to the ending. I think I just kind of like, anyways, like I said, different conversation.
Yeah. But then of course, yeah, Frostpunk 2. They built a Souls like Death Hollow, which is a Souls like deck builder. But anyway, but yeah, as far as like continuing on with the graphics, I loved so there's 3 chapters, and each one had a very distinct look to them. Me and Keith usually mention it, but I'm gonna say in the 3rd act you see some water, and the water looked a little rough. It's because there's a part where you go to the shore, and it's just like not there. And, like,
Definitely not Sea of Thieves level.
No. Me and Keith always judge water ever since Sea of Thieves.
It's just it never does the same.
Yeah. But yeah, I did enjoy the graphics. But getting into the audio though, do you enjoy that it's all one voice actor for the main guy?
Yeah.
And he did a very good job. I will say the technician reminded me so much. What's his name? Is it Aaron Paul, the guy from Breaking Bad?
Oh.
Anytime I had to look it up, I'm like, is this Aaron Paul? Like, this sounds just like him.
I could hear that.
Okay, so it wasn't just me.
No.
I'm
Well,
curious.
I didn't think about that, but once you said it, it's like, oh, I could kind of see that. He kind of has that way of talking like that. Yeah. And you're like, wait, what is it? You're right. He definitely does kind of have a similarity there. Yeah. I mean, obviously the voice acting, I think, is great. Everything's voice acted, and I've got no complaints on that front. I also like, the music's pretty good too. It's sci-fi sounding, but my favorite music is actually when you're in the dormitory. There's like a song playing in there, and it's like this 80s song. And every time I go in there, I'm like, yeah, this song rules. Like, I actually wanted to look that up if is that something they paid for, or is that original to the game? Because the song inside the dormitory, I'm like, I like this. Like, I would listen to this. It's some kind of 80s jam. Do you not know this? Have you not recognized it, Andrew?
I'm trying to like, I'm looking at so yeah, the original soundtrack's on Spotify. So it is here. Okay. Well, I was curious. Did you guys beat the first act?
I did.
I think I'm close to the end of it.
So the alters all get together and sing a song, and it was actually pretty good. But you actually pick the lyrics you're singing, so it's kind of like,
that's fun.
And I wanted to play it again because I'm like, well, what happens? Because of course the scientist is like, well, give me the verse with the shortest like lines in it. But it's actually a really good song because it becomes like a full music video of like the bass, kind of the walls are disappearing, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. I like this game soundtrack, and it's the same guy who did what is it? He also did Frostpunk, which Frostpunk is a good soundtrack. I would play it on here, Aaron, but obviously it gets too loud. You guys get mad.
Well, not only that, we will get DMC struck into oblivion. Okay,
this is the one.
What?
I forgot about this one. So I was just kind of poking through it because I was curious, and honestly, isolated, it's all really cool music. Getting Ready is the name of the song.
In the dorm?
No, the name of the song is called Getting Ready, and I think it's one of the ones in the dorm. And maybe this is the one you're talking about. It sounds like the Stranger Things theme song.
Oh, that was not the one I was thinking of.
Oh yeah, that's kind of.
That's what I'm saying. Like that sound though, that sound right now is being overused a lot. Like that very 80s synth sound. It's like used in all of these sci-fi things. I don't hate it. It is overused though. It isn't everything right now.
But yeah, I don't. If you have it up, Keith, I highly recommend you listen to "What If," the Alter song. It's actually pretty fun.
Well, I have to check it out after. We'll check it out after.
But yeah, it's just, I will say, unfortunately, the music doesn't happen too often, so it is kind of quiet and synthesis in the background, which is unfortunate. I think it's a very solid soundtrack because there's not a lot of plays on it on Spotify, a couple thousand, but it's 14 songs.
Week, though. And not even a full week.
Claire Obscure hit a couple million within a couple weeks.
All right. Please stop.
Different type. Even South of Midnight had, probably 600,000 or 100,000 plus. But music is really cool though.
But that's why we're here. I want people to check it out. It's a solid soundtrack.
For the few hundred of you that listen to this, please go add a couple hundred to that sound list. But maybe you'll pick it, and the Spotify DJ will just assume you only want to listen to that song for the next 6 months, and it will play it for you every time you play the DJ.
Yep.
So could be good. What about achievements, Andrew?
Achievements. So as I said at the beginning of the episode, do not look up the achievements. There are some very heavy spoilers. So don't recommend it. As far as achievement hunters go, also probably don't recommend it. You're going to have to play a couple playthroughs because every altar has a whole side story and you get an achievement for understanding their story. One little mechanic we forgot to mention is if you talk and do well with an altar, you learn their main trait. So like every altar kind of has a different trait. So the botanist is, he gives you the trait of relying on people. So as you're doing dialogue choices, specifically when you call somebody, you sometimes will get a new dialogue option to rely on somebody. The refiner, he gives you optimism. So somebody may say something and you can maybe use that dialogue tree now of optimism. So it's really cool if as you're playing, you're kind of getting these special perks. But in order to get all the achievements, you have to do it with all the altars. You can't get them all within one run. So it takes some time. But overall, though, the achievements aren't very hard. You're not looking at, beat the game with no altars. Nothing crazy hard. It's very much just you got to play the game. And you got to play it a couple times. All right, but yeah, we'll get our final thoughts here. So, as I said, for the altars at the beginning here, this to me, this was a really good game. I really like this game's story. Its gameplay, as Aaron kind of disagrees, I think it's relatively basic and simple. But what's here, it's super fun. It was very addicting. I just wanted to keep playing this game. To me, it was very much kind of like one more day. I want to kind of do this. You're trying to race against the sunrise, so you're kind of at a time management. Some of the dialogue got a little bit long, yes. But I love the characters in this game. I loved what the story was doing. I really want to know what's happening at the end. Like I said, I'm like right at the end. But this game to me was just a lot of fun. And I still stand by, if this year wasn't so stacked, this could, to me, easily been a nomination for a game of the year. I thought it was very unique and what it was doing was like a lot of fun to do. But obviously with so many games, because to me, I think I might have liked this maybe a little bit more than South of Midnight. No, because South of Midnight, I will say, I think its soundtrack, I think would make South of Midnight go a little bit better. But yeah. But anyway, so for me, like I said, this is a definite game. If you like sci-fi, base management, not crazy hard, so you don't have to be someone who has to really figure stuff out. To me, this is a 90. I really like the altars a lot.
So I think, Aaron, what Andrew is missing in this is a game that has no achievements and feels a lot more like a job. Then it would have been better than South of Midnight because it would have been a lot more like Tectonica. But
got him.
Sick burn, Keith. Oh, man.
It's the no achievements one. That's really what I was going for. You wasted all your time. But
thanks. It wasn't a waste of time. I had fun with it.
The thing about the altars is that for Andrew, this game falls a little bit flat because it doesn't have the hardcore sweaty survival mechanic that some of these survival crafting games have sometimes. And that's fine. But if you're someone like me who tends to not like those, this game I wouldn't even call it more accessible. It's easier to manage and doesn't feel as focused on that. It feels so much more focused on the relationship management of your altars and how they get you to the end of the story. And I think that that's actually the most interesting part of it. So the gameplay may fall flat for Andrew because it doesn't have enough 150 different recipes that I have to pour through and remember what I need to do to make a bandage. It's really fun. And I like it for that, especially because otherwise I probably wouldn't have liked this game. So this may actually come down as like my surprise of the year because it's a survival management game that I actually really kind of liked. Especially listening to the music isolated. It's really cool. It's got a cool soundtrack. It's kind of a fun idea with the interacting with the altars and all of that. I would give it a 85.
Yeah, so as we've mentioned here, this is a mix of a few games, but it executes it in all the right places. It really does. There are some minor gripes here and there. There are probably some quality of life stuff that should have gone into this to kind of make it a little bit easier to kind of manage it. But all in all, this is a fun game and it's a pretty unique experience. I just don't like. I can't think of anything you could quite compare this to. Well, again, share some elements, but doesn't fully meet to the level that this is doing. So we've once again got another studio that you would call probably a small studio, just doing it and kind of killing it right now. That's what this year has been full of, and you can add these guys to it on just a smaller studio coming in and doing something that I think a lot of larger studios wish they could do. So this was a great experience, and I look forward to finishing this. Like Andrew said, it's not a very long game, so we should be able to get to the end here and kind of wrap this thing up. But all in all, a pretty good experience. I'm going to give it an 86, not quite a 90. I think with some of those nuisances kind of out of the way, you might have gotten into the 90s, but I think an 86 is fair.
Alrighty. Well, I like Alex in our chat said he wants to play Ark with Keith. Trust me, Alex, you don't want to play Ark with Keith. It's not a good time.
I generally take instructions very well. Will I successfully execute? Questionable, but I will listen and try.
Some of my favorite gaming experiences have been playing games with Keith and hearing him over the microphone just like complaining to himself the whole time. Oh, you're stupid. Yeah. This is so dumb. No, I hate this. It's just so, and you're just sitting in silence, just listening to Keith just yelling on the other side of it. So I could imagine it would be a whole lot of that.
Yes. The best way to describe Keith would be like, honestly, like an altar. You tell him what to do. Hey, Keith, can you chop down some trees? But once those trees are chopped down, he just kind of stands there. He's like, I don't know what to do.
I think I spent a lot of time just building spiked walls, just trying to just basically screw with Andrew.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
But anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. As a quick reminder, as I said, go to GamePassGrabBag.com. Check out our website if you want to see our old reviews and scores. Please join us. Go to our link tree. You'll find the link to all of our stuff, including our Reddit. Aaron puts up a lot of forum stuff on there, games that are coming out on Game Pass. He also likes to put up there the games that we're going to be reviewing next, which I don't know if you put up what the next one is there yet, Aaron.
I don't know. I usually do it after this episode airs.
Yeah, okay. But or join us on our Discord. We're quite active on there. So we always love talking and hanging out with people. I've been your hardcore gamer host, Andrew. You can find me on Xbox Live at Firebird0952.
I've been Keith, and I think the best answer I could find for a good corporation in science fiction would be Stark Industries, but I don't know if we want to call Marvel sci-fi. So
yeah, that's a stretch.
It's a stretch, but that might be our best answer. That's my outro.
And I'm Aaron. Bye.
Love it.
That was efficient. That's what that was. That was efficient.
Oh, well, speaking of Aaron, make sure you check out our YouTube. We've been trying to stream more stuff. He has a gameplay of The Altars. And we should have for next week's game up there.
Yep.
But anyway, love you all. We'll see you again next week.
Bye.